Calm, focus, happiness. You're listening to a Mindfulness Mode interview. I'm your host and mindfulness life coach, Bruce Langford. I interview guests from all walks of life who use mindfulness in a lot of different ways. If you enjoy this interview today, please subscribe right here on YouTube. If you'd like to listen on another device, subscribe to our Mindfulness Mode podcast by using a podcast app and listen at the gym or in your car, wherever you'd like. You can also listen directly on our website and have a look at the show notes. Check out mindfulnessmode.com. You'll see links and other helpful information. So sit back, relax, and enjoy today's episode of Mindfulness Mode. Reach new heights of calm, focus, and happiness on today's Mindfulness Mode with me, your host and mindfulness life coach, Bruce Langford. Okay, Mindful Tribe, I am really excited today. I've got Leon Logothetis on the line today with us. Hey, Leon, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. And so, Leon, are you in mindfulness mode?
I am doing my best to get into mindfulness mode.
Well, that's good. Well, we'll move there. And I want to ask you right at the start here, what does mindfulness mean to you? And then I'm going to share a little bit of a bio with our listeners. What does mindfulness mean to you, Leon?
Well, mindfulness just means coming from a centered place, taking all the madness that we are inflicted with in the world, the media, the internet, all our iPads and iPods, and just moving them out of our life and centering ourselves and just being more present.
Well, it definitely is being more present, that's for sure. And yes, I will share your bio. It's right here. Leon Logothetis was a stockbroker, and he left that life behind to become a global adventurer. He's visited more than 50 countries, traveled to every continent on the planet. When anybody says the word kindness, I have to say, I literally think of Leon. He's host of the terrific TV series called the Kindness Diaries, which has the subtitle, One Man's Quest to Ignite Goodwill and Transform Lives Around the World. So that says it all. And he had another show before that called Amazing Adventures of a Nobody, which was fascinating too, and it was about kindness as well. So, well, let's dig right in here. I'm fascinated that you led a life as a stockbroker, and then you moved into this. What compelled you to move in this, what seems like a very different direction?
Yeah, so look, I used to be a broker, and on the outside, I had pretty much everything, I was very fortunate. I had a very nice house, I had a car, I had everything you could want.
Mm-hmm.
And on the inside, I had the total opposite. I felt very depressed. I felt very, very alone. I felt no sense of purpose. And ultimately, I was very disconnected. And I thought to myself, wow, is this going to be my life? Am I going to have to sit behind this desk for the next 50 years? And at some point, I felt the answer to that was yes. But then I stumbled across the movie, The Motorcycle Diaries, which is a romanticized version of Che Guevara traveling around South America, relying on the kindness of strangers. And there was something about that movie. I'm not sure if you or your listeners have ever had that moment where you watch a movie and it just touches you in a profound way. And that happened with that show. It just touched my heart. It touched my soul. I realized that this wasn't the only way of living. I didn't have to sit behind this desk forever, and I could go out into the world and live from my heart. I could go out in the world and connect with people, and that's ultimately what happened. I mean, it doesn't mean that I immediately quit my job. It took me a little bit of time to quit my job, and it doesn't mean that I was always happy after that, because I wasn't, because life brings with it its own tribulations. But I was certainly freed up to live for
Yeah. Okay. Well, you just cut out there for a second on Skype. Yeah. So you were freed up to live. Just finish that sentence, will you?
Yeah, I was freed up to live from my heart.
Right. Right. And did it take a lot of courage to leave behind that career?
Look, in some ways it took some courage, but I always tell people that I felt like my pain pushed me. I
Mm,
felt internally I was in so much pain, that emotional pain, that I felt like I had no choice. I had no choice but to change. And in many ways that pain was a beautiful thing, because it forced me to change. I don't think I would have changed had the pain not been great enough.
right. Right. Well, yeah. And there's an example where pain served a real purpose and you were able to accept that. It sounds like.
Look, in the time I was at the time I wasn't particularly happy to be in
No,
pain. I
no,
don't think anyone is.
no.
But in hindsight, it was the fuel that pushed me to change things for the better.
And so then what's the first thing you did? Did you get right into that series that you did, the Nobody series, or did you do something else first?
Yeah, so the first thing I did was I traveled from Times Square to the Hollywood sign with $5 a day.
Right. Right.
And that was the first journey. And it was about relying on the kindness of strangers. And, it was all about connecting.
Right. Yeah. And it's one thing to see you on that screen in those positions where, you're rejected or, you're wondering where you're going to spend the night and all those things, but it's another thing to experience it firsthand. So, like, tell us how it truly felt, especially those first few times.
Look, I remember coming up with the idea of traveling around America on my couch, and it sounded like a brilliant idea. And then I remember what it felt like when I was in Times Square, and it felt like a really bad idea because I had to get to LA with basically no money.
Right.
But at that point, I'd put myself in such a situation where I had no choice but to keep going. And the further I went, the more people that I went, the more generosity that I experienced. There were still a lot of negative moments. There were still a lot of moments where I didn't receive any help, which is fine. I was doing a social experiment of sorts, and I was put into that situation. I put myself into that situation. But more often than not, I would connect with that magical individual or that magical family or that magical community, and it would just keep me going. My heart would start singing, and I would feel connected. I would feel a sense of community, all the things that I didn't have at home.
Well, I remember when you were in India and the family welcomed you to their home. And then it turned out that the four of them, the two children and his pregnant wife and him, they just had the one bed and they wanted you to sleep in it. And you and the children and the two of them would sleep on the floor. And you just said, no, I could not possibly accept this. I mean, that just must have been the most amazing experience. And then you went ahead and you understood that, yes, this was the way it just needed to be. You just needed to accept the circumstance at the time.
Yes, that was in Delhi. And I'd met a rickshaw driver who took me to his house in the slums, which was a really small house all the way in the back of the slums. And he offered for me to stay with him. But as you say, he offered for me to sleep in his bed, and his family was going to sleep on the floor. And I was like, absolutely not. Sorry, but I'm going to sleep on the floor.
Right.
But he then made a pitch, and he goes to me, look, guest is God in India. You must sleep in the bed. So I gave in. I said, okay, guest is God. I will sleep in the bed. And it was a profound experience. Again, another eye-opening, heart-opening moment.
And then the next morning you talked to them and you said, you know what, I want to do something for you. I want to help you. And tell us what you did.
Yes. So I will give away this gift. The rest of the gifts you can watch on the Netflix show.
Right.
But basically what happened was that I ended up I would always pick some people who I felt really connected to. And I would always figure out something that could really help their lives. So it was more like an opportunity as opposed to a handout.
Right.
And this rickshaw driver kept telling me that, and again, he had no idea what was coming. None of these people knew that I was going to give something back. So it was like a real surprise. And what happened was that he kept telling me how he was working as a rickshaw driver, but a lot of his money would go to pay rent for the rickshaw. So I decided that I was going to buy him a new rickshaw. And the next morning I took him and his family, his 2 kids and his wife, up on the roof of one of the houses. And I told him what I was going to do. And I remember he looked at me and he goes, "I think I'm dreaming."
Wow.
"Am I dreaming?" And I said, "Diru, you're not dreaming. This is real. I'm going to buy you a new rickshaw." And the story of Diru is actually a really lovely one because I've stayed in touch with him. And last year I went to Delhi, and Diru insisted that he was going to pick me up at the airport in his rickshaw. And I said, "Diru, don't worry. You don't have to pick me up." He's like, "Mr. Leon, I'm going to pick you up in my rickshaw."
Wow.
And I was like, "Okay." So he comes up to the main terminal in his rickshaw and drives me to my hotel.
Wow. Wow. That must have been just amazing to experience that.
It really was. It really was.
Yeah. You were born in London. You grew up there too, didn't you? And then you moved after that. Can you tell us a little about your childhood? And I mean, it must hinge on how you became the person you are, that you just want to give and you want to be kind and you want to connect. Tell us about your childhood, Leah.
Yeah. So look, as a kid, I felt very disconnected.
Mm.
At school, I was bullied very badly. I had very few friends. I would go to school and feel profoundly alone. And not just the kids were bullying, but the teachers as well, which I could never understand. Very disempowering.
Mm.
And I made a commitment to myself that I would do my very best never to disempower someone, but to empower them. And that's really what I did. And when it comes to the kindness, people at school specifically were unkind, and I didn't understand. And I thought, why are you doing this to me? Why are you behaving like this? And again, I made a commitment that I would do my best, as imperfectly as I could, that I would give back to people and come from a place of love and commit to that. And that's really how it all began. And also, I love adventure. So I kind of made it all into one: adventure and love.
You
Take
created, you created the perfect life for you. Leon, I've worked in bullying prevention for 15 years. I was a teacher in a school, and then I saw so much bullying, and I thought, somebody's got to do something. And of course, I looked in the mirror. Well, why not me? And I started doing presentations everywhere. I've done thousands of them. And then I came to see that, if I can just teach what it means to be mindful to adults, to children, if we can just bring that into the world, help people understand that anyone, everyone can use these tools and be more mindful, it can make a huge difference. Can you look back and think how you could have maybe dealt with that differently, or maybe you dealt with it in the best possible way at the time? But it just is something that I like to talk about because I think it helps people understand how they can deal with a bullying situation right now.
One of the ways I could have dealt with it better is by sharing my pain, sharing it with my parents, sharing it with people that loved me, and I never did. I never shared it. I mean, I did share it as I was a teenager, but for 16, 17, if I'm not mistaken. But prior to that, I didn't share my pain. And when I started to share it, things started to shift.
Right. And that's what I find too, that it seems like a natural human instinct to keep it inside, keep it to yourself, as if we're almost ashamed, we're embarrassed, whatever. But yeah, great advice. You need to get it out there and share it. Uh, do you have meditation as part of your life? Do you meditate or have any form of it as part of your life?
Yes, I meditate every day for half an hour a day. I did it for an hour a day for a few years, and now I do half an hour a day.
I find that really makes a huge difference to find peace and just be more calm. Is yours silent meditation or does it take a different form?
Yes, it's silent meditation.
Yeah, I really believe in that. And what about journaling? Is that part of your life?
I used to journal a lot. I don't journal anymore, but I used to journal a lot.
And did that help you work through any of the challenges that you
Yeah,
had?
definitely. I think in one way you get to let it all out. Like one of the things that a wise man once said to me was write letters to people but don't send them.
Ah,
So I would write these letters to people who I was upset with or who I felt fear around, and I would share all my feelings. And I didn't send them, but it wasn't about sending them. It was about letting it out.
Leon, I just want to finish by asking you five quick answer questions. The first one, just 30-second answers would be fine. First one is, who is one person who has influenced your mindfulness?
Mm. I went on a journey with a teacher a couple of years ago to India.
Uh-huh.
And he once said to me, and he kept telling me, you have to meditate, you have to meditate. And I kept telling him, it's impossible, it's impossible. And he said to me, Leon, if you don't meditate, you are screwed. And I was like, wow, there's something clicked in that moment, because I realized the finality of that statement was meditation is not an option. It's a you have to do it to be able to like get through our daily life the way that we live in this insane world.
Yeah, it's a necessity. How has mindfulness affected your emotions, Leon?
Look, I think mindfulness has affected my emotions by enabling me to be more balanced, by enabling me to be more centered, by enabling me to be able to make better decisions and not be so reactive.
Mm. And how is breathing part of your mindfulness practice?
That's a very good question. So I never really realized the importance of breathing until I started doing mindfulness. And often we forget, it sounds silly, but we forget to breathe. We forget to really breathe. Like I notice now that as I give this, as we do this talk, I'm actually breathing very shallowly. And that's not good. It's like if you got to breathe as fully as possible. And when I do breathe as fully as possible, it kind of wakes you up. It kind of invigorates you. So breathing is a really powerful and important part of mindfulness.
Agree. If you could recommend a book related to mindfulness, what would that be, Leon?
Now you're putting me on the spot. Each question gets more put Leon on the spot.
Yes.
I would just say find a starter course book on mindfulness on Amazon. That's the way to get into it. Is really just a beginner's guide.
Sure. And can you share an app which helps you be more mindful, whether it's a productivity type
Yeah,
app or anything?
Buddhify.
Buddha.
Buddhify.
Okay.
Buddhify is a really good app. It's basically all about meditation.
Leon, how can we learn more about you and what you do and maybe even connect with you?
Yeah, the best way is to Google the Kindness Diaries, and the Netflix show will come up, the book will come up, and then my name will come up, and you can Facebook or Twitter or Instagram me, and I will respond. I always respond.
Leon, it has been fantastic to get an opportunity to speak with you, to share this. It's really wonderful what you're doing in the world with your shows, and not only with your shows, but just the fact that you're getting out there and you're offering kindness, you're setting that example. So thank you so much for that, Leon.
It's my pleasure, and thank you for caring enough to have me on your show.
My pleasure. So all the best, and have a great rest of your day, Leon.
Thanks so much. You too.
Okay, bye now.
Bye.
Hey, Mindful Tribe, thanks for listening to the interview today. If you've enjoyed this interview, please subscribe right here on YouTube. Or if you'd like to listen on another device, you can do that too. Subscribe to our Mindfulness Mode podcast by using a podcast app, and then you can listen anywhere, like when you're driving or riding the subway or on a bus. And you can also check out our website and have a look at our show notes. You can listen directly right there at mindfulnessmode.com. So till next time, Mindful Tribe, use what we've learned today to reach new heights of calm, focus, and happiness. Stay in the mode.